Now comes the big test to see if everything is hooked up exactly the way it's supposed to be. Now, I removed a hard drive out of here. I'm assuming that was a secondary drive. If I remove the wrong one, I'm screwed. I got to start all over. But if I remove the right one, everything should work just fine. We'll see. Okay, this is not working right. It booted from the wrong drive. Okay, so I gotta switch the connectors. Alright, now I'm gonna go ahead and okay, this is absolutely going wrong here. Alright, I've got the connectors wrong. This happens sometimes. I'm gonna go ahead and shut this off, and then I'm gonna switch the connectors and we'll be fine. Stay tuned. Now, in our last video, you saw that I plugged things in wrong. There is a very simple way to fix that little problem. What we're going to do is we're going to disconnect this, put this up here. Well, we're going to put this down here first, and put this up here second. We're just going to reverse the order of the SATA connectors to the motherboard. As soon as we do, we pop this back in here, and then we turn it back on, and hopefully this time it'll read as a slave drive. Alright, I will tell you more in the next video, so stay tuned. Now in here, if you move the cords over, I know you can't see this, but right down here, I'm going to put my finger just very close to where it's at, you'll see words right down here where these two little red cords go. They hook up into here. One says SATA 2, one says SATA 1. I didn't read very carefully. I should have. I'm now going to connect this the right way, and we're going to get this thing to boot the way it's supposed to. Stay tuned. Alright folks, after a few little connections and doing a little flip-flopping, I got this finally working. I just didn't pay attention very well to the SATA 1 and the SATA 2, which I should have. And this is now booting, and it is now booting in Windows 7 instead of Windows Vista. And give me just a second here. I'm going to put my little thing, I'm going to turn this to the side here because I'm going to go ahead and type my password in. And now you'll see it'll come right up. Now, of course, it has to connect to the internet. And while it's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And I'm going to go to... Oops. I'm going to go ahead and go over here. Alrighty. Now, you see this right here? As you can see, this has got all of my data files from my old computer. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy these data files from my old hard drive to my new one. As soon as I do, I'm wiping out this drive, and boom, we'll start fresh and new. Okay, I will tell you more in a future video, so stay tuned. Okay, the final summary of this particular whatever. What were the mistakes that I made that suddenly caused Windows Vista to come up rather than Windows 7? Well, the primary mistake I made was in how I hooked the computer up. Do you remember me talking about SATA drives? Okay, there's a SATA 1 and a SATA 2. Now this is clearly marked on my motherboard. Some motherboards have it clearly marked, some do not. Got to watch out for that, okay? I misread the motherboard. That was my stupid mistake, okay? And what I did, what the computer did, when I hooked everything up, was it started reading from this DVD burner, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. But instead of reading from the hard drive next, this first hard drive, because this is H1, this is the primary hard drive, H2 is the slave drive, okay? There are primary drives and slave drives. Your primary drive will always be C, okay? And your slave drive will usually be D. What happened was, instead of hooking up my primary drive as SATA 1, I hooked up my primary drive as SATA 2. And then I hooked up my slave drive as SATA 1. SATA 1 is always your primary drive, okay? And my mistake was I hooked it up to the wrong hard drive, and it read from there instead of where it was supposed to be reading from, okay? Because the computer will always go in this sequence. If you got it set up this way, it'll read DVD first, SATA 1 second, SATA 2 third. Okay, it'll always read 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's how it reads SATA drives. Okay, so you always want your primary disk drive to be SATA 1. And I didn't do that, and that was my mistake, and that's why it looks so cruddy on the video. Had I hooked it up right in the first place, that'd have been fine, but I didn't. Okay. So, what's going to happen now? Well, I am transferring files that are stored on SATA 2, and I'm placing them on SATA 1. The reason I'm doing this is because I don't want to sit there and copy tons of files onto memory cards, or worse, try to burn them on disks. I'd have a ton of disks. No need to do that. Just hook it up in this configuration, and you can transfer files from your slave drive to your primary. Primary drive is always SATA 1, slave drives are SATA 2, 3, so on and so on and so forth. Always like that, okay? So it's always important that you hook up your primary drive to SATA 1. Otherwise, it's all screwed up. Alright. I'm going to be busy tomorrow. That's why I'm not going to do any real big time videos. But when I get a little less busy, I'll do some more videos. Hopefully you learned something from this. If you have any questions whatsoever, I want you to leave them in the comments below, because I will go further in my illustration. But as you saw, all I did was I hooked up the wrong wires to the hard drives. Had I hooked them up correctly, this would have worked, and it did work in the end, because I rearranged the wires, and it worked. And as you can see for yourself, I am transferring files from one hard drive to the other. Alright, I will tell you more in a future video, so stay tuned.